Today I want to make a video answering the question, which language is more difficult, Mandarin Chinese or Japanese? And I want to start off by saying I don't think it's a good question. And the reason I don't think a good question is because it's focusing too much on the immediate. So people who are questioning which language to pick, they're interested in Eastern Asia, which language they want to learn. Really it doesn't matter because this is looking kind of microscopically trying to dissect each language, which one's going to take a little bit less time. But at the 10,000 foot view, looking down at it, you know, in order to learn, say, Spanish, French, even German, Italian, it might take anywhere from 700 to 1,000 hours of study. If you want to learn, Russian, Polish, Farsi, that might take 2,200 hours. Whereas the East Asian languages, the Foreign Service Institute's hardest ranked language for a native English speaker. This doesn't hold true if your native language is, another Asian language or something else. This is from the perspective of an English speaker. But it would take, 4,000 hours of study. And so if you're looking at it from that perspective and you think how much 4,000 hours really is compared to, say, the 700 hours it takes to learn, say, Spanish or French, if one takes 4,000 hours and one takes 4,400 hours, that's a small fraction of a difference. So really taking a step back and looking over the broad course of time, the percentage, the slight percentage that will make one slightly more difficult than the other, it doesn't matter. It really does not. There is zero importance of which language is more difficult because the vast amount of time that's going to take, whether one is slightly more difficult than the other, it's just a small percentage. You have to have such dedication to it that should not play a role into which language you want to learn. Which language you want to learn is which one you're more motivated to learn, which one you have a better reason to learn. That being said, I think which language is more difficult, your perspective changes over time. So, I'm not fluent, so I can only talk about the beginning stages. But at the beginning stage, is this visible? Yes. The blue line, I would say, is it's kind of like Japanese. This is not to scale or anything. I just scribbled this real quick. At first, the Japanese is much more easy out the gate. The reason is because it has the hiragana. It has like an alphabet. It has tons of English loanwords. You learn a couple simple grammatical structures, a couple easy ways to express yourself. You can start making basic phrases. You can make yourself understood relatively quickly. If you want to just go over to Japan and order a beer, biru o kudasai. Simple. You can get to just basic commands and remember them easier in Japanese, I think. And you can start building up a vocabulary and getting a base quicker in Japanese. And so I think at the beginning you might think Japanese is easier, especially as you go through like a beginner course book. Mandarin, I think, is very hard at the beginning. It is hard to get a foothold because every word is different. Getting used to speaking with every word with the different tones, understanding the tones. Even though people say, oh, tones aren't that hard, it's different. It does take a while to get used to. It's not impossible, but, it's an extra layer that you have to get used to and work on. Also, all the words are completely different. You want to learn the fruits. In Japanese, all the fruit, well, not all of them, but a good number of them are similar to English. Whereas Mandarin, you just have to learn new words. Over time, though, I feel that the way Japanese is structured and expresses itself, and the fact that you have to learn hiragana, katakana, even the katakana words there's so many from mostly English, but some from other languages, these foreign words that are in, it almost becomes hard, and I have to try to sound it out and understand where does that come from because it seems so different than the original English word and how to properly pronounce it. That can actually become, at first it's helpful, but at some point I find it actually a bit challenging when it's thrown in. You have to learn the kanji, but there's multiple readings to each kanji. So right now I'm at a stage whereas I think, let's say this line is like a conversation, like for a foreigner fluent, not perfect, but like a B2 level. And I'm not there in either language, but I can start to understand podcasts and whatnot. But at this point, I think Japanese has become slightly more difficult with a similar amount of time spent on each, just because the way the Mandarin characters build themselves and the way expressions build themselves in the language actually is very logical. I'm finding over time, now that I'm building up a large number of characters that I know, I understand a lot more new expressions like I think I don't know why this came up, but context is 上下文 for like the context of something. So that just means like the characters are above, below, and then literature. So above and below a topic, just the overall context of it. It makes sense, and that's easy for me to remember. Whereas the Japanese borrowed a lot from Mandarin. They have the original Japanese word or the Mandarin word. So I think over time, Japanese might continue to be slightly more complex to learn, slightly more difficult. I don't think it's a large difference, though. In the end, I think it'll probably take, both of them take a ton of time. In the end, I'm still far from being fluent. Maybe my opinion will change later, but right now, I think it really doesn't matter. Even if one is slightly more complicated, the vast amount of time and effort, you have to have a good reason to pick it. Pick which language you want to study, and which one is harder is not a good reason, or easier is not a good reason to pick or not pick one of the Eastern Asian languages. And that's all. Thanks.